30 on the dot. I will call the regular City of White Lakes Council meeting for Monday, August 25th at 5:30 to order. Roll call, please.
Councilors Grants,
Here.
Charlotte. Here. Ekman,
Here.
Matheson. Here. Mayor Scott.
Here.
There's a quorum.
All right, thank you. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, moving on to the consent agenda. Anybody have any comments or questions regarding any of that?
Is anyone going to the State of the Range event? But you got the invitation for that's in the packet.
September 17th.
During the day, isn't it?
Yeah. No, it's at 4. It's at 4. Speakers start at 4:45. I was wondering if anyone, was going.
I think I did put it in my calendar, I'm sure.
But on my Rams. I think I went last year, I think, I went to some meeting, but. At the Mac, but I don't even think this is the one.
Did you go to like the brownfield thing? Or is that?
Oh, I did, I went to the Brownfield
Is
thing.
that what it was? Yeah, I might go to it Wednesdays, I was thinking. I don't think
So, looks like you have reasonable tickets by next week.
Yes.
Free ticket, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's free, but limited space is available. Just thought it'd be good if someone attended.
yeah. Yeah, I work out of Virginia, so I could probably plan on going. I'll make a note of that. Anybody else have anything for the consent agenda? Hearing nothing, I'll ask for a motion to accept the consent agenda as written. So, we have a motion from Councilor Jarvella. Is there anybody that would like to second that?
I'll second.
We have a second from Councilor Grams. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Moving on to the guests and citizens forum, before we ask Shane to step up to the stand, is there anybody else that has anything to share, any questions or anything? All right, hearing none, Shane, you're on now.
Right. Thank you. Anything I need to do? Sounds like.
No,
All right.
yeah, it's not, I don't think it is on, we each have a packet,
Gotcha. Well, there's just very good acoustics here. So
Yeah.
it's coming back at me, so. Yes, well, yeah, the first programming notes is the one you noted there. I sent some PowerPoint slides in advance. Dean let me know we'd have to go through my paper, so we'll still kind of follow those, assuming they're helpful. And then the second one is I knew when we scheduled this, or as my kind of travel plans came together, I figured out I'm gonna arrive in town and at City Hall here, right as you guys were in a public forum, so. I appreciate being put first on the agenda, so in the event I get back on the road, but since I haven't met a lot of you or didn't have a chance to get in town early enough to shake your hands, make some small talk. I'm gonna plan to hang around through the meeting and have the opportunity, if you have questions, just wanna chat one-on-one, whatever there is, I'll hang around for the rest of the meeting before I hit the road. So those are my two programming notes before we get going, but other than the title slide and what I sent, the first of the slides in that presentation is kind of an introduction of me and the firm I work with, and then we'll talk about the Coalition of Utility Cities, which is really why I'm here today. So again, my name is Shane Zart with the firm Flaherty and Hood. So we're a law and government relations firm based right across from the Capitol in St. Paul, because that's where we have to be, because our job is to pester legislators all day, but really our firm's history and our bread and butter is representing communities outside of the 7-county metro area. So in many cases, bringing the voice of rural, primarily local governments, to the capital. So in that context and kind of on that backdrop, we've worked with a number of groups. I know you all are members of, or at least are aware of, various local government groups that operate at the capital. You got League of Cities, Coalition of Greater Minnesota Cities, so we also work with. There's other, regional groups and the like. And then there's a lot of kind of special purpose groups, like the Coalition of Utility Cities is one of those. So we'll kind of move right into it. What is the Coalition of Utility Cities, and why is White Lakes a member? So the Coalition of Utility Cities is an organization of 7 cities that all host large investor-owned power plants. So to cut right to it, the reason White Lakes is a member is because of Alaska. What brings each of the communities together that have been members of this organization are not just the fact that the plant sits here, but really what it means to your tax capacity. So the ballpark figures that we've often used over the years is for each of our communities that host a large power generation facility. That plant alone and some of the taxable property related to it often makes up anywhere from 30 to 75% of the city's tax base on its own. What many of you probably also know is that power plants, pipelines, and railroads are kind of in their own category of taxation. They're not assessed like your house is, or like a local business is by the county, and that value gets passed on to you. Power plants, pipelines, and railroads, my shorthand for it, but those 3 categories are the primary types of property that make up what's state assessed by so the Minnesota Department of Revenue. The state actually values those assets, passes along that value to the counties, trickles down to you. So as you can imagine, when you've got the state in control of those valuations, the assessment processes that feed into them, and you've got at the local level, those properties making up such a significant part of your tax base. What that means is any policy change that the legislature makes in these categories, any change that the Department of Revenue makes related to these properties can have a huge impact on you, your local budget. But really, and what we'll talk about a little bit here through by way of an example is it's all about protecting your other property taxpayers. So your folks who live in town and the smaller businesses that operate in town. So moving on, we're kind of in your slides there. One of the examples I kind of brought to discuss with folks, I think it's a good kind of illustrative example of why this group exists, the work, the issues that the Coalition of Utility Cities is looking out for and advocating on that otherwise may not have a voice at the Capitol. A good example of that popped up for us in January of 2024. So the Department of Revenue in January of last year, put out a notice by way of an email that just said the Department of Revenue is exploring taking all properties in those categories. So again, shorthanding it, power plants, pipelines, railroads, and moving that away from what the current assessment practices are. We don't need to get into the weeds of those. Just know that they're going to move from the system we've got to a brand new system that would have operated on gross operating revenues. So the DOR would have looked at a company's gross operating revenues, come up with a brand new valuation formula. The details of that don't really matter for this discussion. All that we cared about was that anytime a change is made to the assessment practices that ultimately lead into the value of what the Alaskan plant, for example, contributes to your local tax base, there's a big threat there. Now, over the years, I think our communities have fought as much as anyone to make changes to the current assessment practices. That's not to say that we're happy with the current state of affairs at the DOR, but with something like this, it's initiated by the state, kind of surprised everyone, caught everyone off guard. Our charge is we need to understand this as fast as possible. We're going to participate. We're going to push back. you know, ultimately, what does this mean for our community, and for your taxpayers? So what, kind of fast forwarding, what that email set off was really a crash course in trying to stop something that was moving at a state agency level without anyone knowing. So involved coalition utility cities and some of our member cities, you know, meeting with DOR directly, informing research on our own to understand what this might mean for our communities. And then submitting written comments or, you know, ultimately helping push for DOR to put the brakes on this whole process. Which they first did. They said, you know what, they started this in January of 2024. They first scared everyone that they're going to try to make a legislative change that legislative session. So the first delay was they said, okay, we've heard everyone, this isn't moving forward now. We're going to push all this conversation off into the summer after session. Don't worry, you guys will have more discussion then. What that enabled us to do was additional research, move those discussions forward without the threat of an immediate legislative change. But also to understand what we know about that data and what we don't know. And one of the things that DOR did a good job of rolling out was the very, very high level of how they might calculate the new values. What they did a very poor job of was producing anything that would give us any sense of, okay, we see where you're trying to go, but how does that compare to the current state of affairs? So if I take your new system you're proposing versus what is currently in place that already contributes to Hoyt Lake's tax capacity, for example, how do I understand the difference? How do I know what this means for any individual community? So what they were ultimately nudged to do was by November of 2024, what we had worked out with them was to produce a 5-year look back document. So go back to the past 5 years. The real data, we have the real data for the current system for those 5 years, obviously, because they were assessed and taxed and those dollars have already been collected. Well, run the hypothetical, compare, had the system you're proposing been in place for those 5 years, what would it have meant for these communities? What would the difference have been? And the gap in tax capacity that would have meant for a lot of our communities, current system versus what they're proposing was incredibly stark. So
What drove their reason for doing that shift?
yeah, so their reason for initiating this change was really frankly their own liability. There's two ways that DOR when they produce these values, there's two ways that they can become problematic for the agency itself. And that is, and some of that trickles down to us. So that is, they first produce a value for what Minnesota Power and all of its assets that they think it's worth. What the companies then have the opportunity to do is first an administrative appeal. So there's an administrative appeal process kind of spelled out in statute that Minnesota Power, if they wanted to, could initiate saying, DOR, we think you got it wrong. You valued us at this. Here's what our numbers say. Here's our case. And go through that administrative process is really just kind of a negotiated administrative settlement between the company and the agency. Kind of happens in the black box, but at the end of it, what spits out is often a new agreed upon value. So that's one way that those values can change. The second way is that in some cases, and this be very familiar to some folks in this room, they've been sued on their valuations. And that includes, very, very notably, some of the suits over lawsuits from roughly, tax years from, at this point, what, 9 to 13 years ago in there about Enbridge pipeline valuations. So those were cases where Enbridge challenged their valuations in the tax court. One was subject to multiple appeals. Ultimately, the state legislature ended up coming in and kind of filling in the gap because, the counties and cities that received those tax revenues had long collected them and spent them on providing local services and that. So it's really a long answer to say DOR is trying to sick of being sued and trying to avoid being sued. They would like to find a system that pushes any of the discretion, the current valuation process off of them. One of the things though that I think scared us about this particular approach that they landed on is that it doesn't really eliminate discretion in the system, but it gives more control over where that discretion is to the companies in some cases in our estimation. So does that kind of answer your question? The short version is they're sick of being sued. And so I talked a lot, but did I get to the nut of it there?
Yeah, I worked in that system for years, so it just strikes me that to transfer that tax liability to everybody else is taking a big burden off the Department of Revenue.
Yeah.
And for what?
Yeah, yeah. There, if you kind of take it at face value, the system that they were proposing here, gross operating revenues. What they would tell you is that, especially if you build in some things like some rolling averages year to year, we'll see far fewer fluctuations between years, the data that feeds into that was agreed upon in advance in many cases. So the gross operating revenues, some of the accounting data that feeds into that comes from the companies themselves. It's verified by DOR, but some of the inputs into the valuation system are kind of verified on the front end or externally with DOR rather than some of the current approaches. I think what the companies might tell you is DOR kind of takes in a lot of data, then they come up with a value on their own, and then we all fight about it later. So kind of taking it at face value, I think they're again trying to they're sick of being sued, trying to push off some of that discretion so that there's more objectivity, I think is how they would phrase it in the valuations that are produced by them.
Well, your numbers show 628,500 plus, which would mean that burden would then be paid by everybody in this room
Yes,
and all the commercial properties in town also.
yes,
That would add that much to everybody's.
correct, yeah. Yes, yeah, so and those numbers were incredibly striking, I think, and this community was an example where those numbers were big and they were negative. And to be honest, too, there were a couple members of the coalition of utility cities that had moved from current system to the system DOR was proposing would either be roughly held harmless or see slight positive bump in the short term. But universally, all 7 of the communities that the folks that we spoke with were skeptical, opposed of this. We had folks from even those communities that wouldn't see such a negative impact say it's not worth it. It's going to hurt our other coalition members. We also we may look like we make out okay in the short term on this, but what comes 5 years from now? That's not to say anyone likes DOR's current system or the valuations that or year to year instability that can come along with it. But it is really the devil we know and some of that. So, but yes, that's the numbers you referenced are on page 6. That comes from November 2024. That's actually some data that DOR produced. That's what I think the local government's responding to this, pushing back on it. That was the biggest thing we wanted to see is what does this mean? What would this mean for a community like White Lakes, for any community that's gonna go through this? The document itself, I think is, well, I put a little asterisk there on the sheet, and that data I cited appears on page 1017 of that document. So it's not just the power plant communities, it's almost every city in the state is on that document. And 5 times, because they go through 5 different tax years, what it would look like in those for, I just pulled one of those out because it was one of the more recent ones. So that was for assessment year 24, taxes payable 25, and that's what DOR's numbers said this would have meant for White Lakes was $628,000 shift. And according to them, yeah, that's a change of 31.34, I believe, was to the negative. So those, I think, this example popping up last year and the coalition kind of being a part of fighting it back. That's the quickest and most recent example I could give to you of, what does this group do? Why do we exist? And are there, just because power plant communities are so deeply impacted by some of these potential changes. There's, you know, things that, voices that we can bring to the table that others maybe can't. So where do things stand now? In early 2025, so when this legislative session, just this one that just concluded, sparked up. The DOR did give an update to the Senate Tax Committee about this process. You know, it was very high level informational, acknowledged some of the concerns they'd heard, tried to massage that, oh, you know, we're not proposing legislation just now, don't scare anyone. But I don't want to say that this has gone forever. I think we're remaining in close contact with DOR staff. You know, they're still interested in potentially looking at other solutions. They're not wedded to this one anymore, I don't think. I think we've successfully beat this one back. At least raised enough questions about, you know, what this would look like, or that there's a lot of caution before anything moves forward. But some legislators during that hearing expressed interest in that too, and said, you know, they didn't say that, hey, this is the perfect solution. They get it, that it would hurt communities in the short term. But there is legislative desire to potentially look at different ways of assessing this type of property, just because the current system can be so volatile, too. So, where I think I'll, kind of comment there and just back up a little bit. One of the reasons I'm here is, because, you know, Dean, you're newer to your role. We had a long tradition, I mentioned this group, or maybe I didn't mention it, it's in the slides. This group's been around since 1998. We've had a good tradition of Hoyt Lakes, you know, working closely with you all. And when I started, it was Mayor Skelton, and then Mayor Breland. And then since then, we've had a good relationship with staff. But a lot of the Dean's new to his role. We've had some new faces on the council, and frankly, it's been a long time since I stood in this spot, so I had to get myself back up here. I want to talk more, give you a lot of more context about what this group is, why the city has historically been a part of it. But I know maybe other than staff receiving the emails about this process last year. Most recently, what I remember Hoyt Lakes weighing in on was a legislative proposal in 2023 that would have said any, you know, new energy utility scale battery storage projects are exempt completely from property taxes. And now that was something we had a little concern about, because anytime you exempt anything utility scale from property taxes, we have some questions. And I do remember the then administrator having some conversation with then Representative Liz Lagarde, who was the chair of the property tax division in the House at the time, and a big impact, I think, on how he and some of his colleagues were thinking about that too. So now one of the things I'll transition to. And just give you some very, very quick context on, because we have some questions and I went long in answering that question. But so I'll maybe blaze through the rest of this. So we'll talk a little bit about the group's work, because one of the things we've been focused on too is plant retirements and preparing the coal communities in our group. You know, a lot of members seeing either plant retirements or Hoyt Lakes was actually on the front end of this with a coal to gas conversion out of Atlaskan. Now the same thing or a similar thing, not quite the same, there's a lot of unanswered questions, is maybe on the table for Cohasset in the coming years. But before we get to touch on some of that, maybe it's a good time to pause for questions, since I've thrown a lot at you, giving you some examples. Anything else I can address before we move on? Okay. Excellent. So the rest of my presentation there, you know, talks about some of the recent work we've done. And when I say recent, you know, some of this really started around about 2015, but really kicked up around the kind of 2020 to 2023 timeframe. But more around the idea of, you know, we've talked about how significantly these facilities, utility property, and being a host of large generation contributes to local tax base. Talked about the system, you know, year to year the DOR administers, but you know, a lot of our communities, I mentioned Hoyt Lakes, coal to gas conversion. Some of the other communities are being faced with, okay, what happens when these plants go away completely? And I mentioned 2015 because that's when XL Energy announced that they were going to try to cease coal operations at their largest coal plant, Sherco facility in Becker, decades before the end of what had been that plant's license. saw a similar thing over at Boswell and Cohasset, where 2 of the 4 coal units have retired. And the other 2 are now being scheduled for retirement. So what with that, I think what we started to look at was, for all of our communities, whether or not your plant is going away, what are the things that we can put in place to either create new or distinct economic development tools specifically for power plant communities? How can we address some of the gaps that we've had when our communities go to the state and you're working on a project and you've got whether it's a transportation project or economic development project, and you mentioned to whoever your contact is at MnDOT or DEED, well, and we're a host community, so we've got this feature in our tax base, or we've got this related to the power plant, and they have no idea what you're talking about. What can we do to address some of that? And then more directly though, is there direct tax-based support we can provide at the time of plant retirement or conversion? And this is where I'll kind of shorthand all of this, because on kind of each of those 3 legs of the stool, we've been able to have some legislative success just in the past few years. So for one, we were able to create, kind of modeled loosely on an office that was created in Colorado. What DEED has is called the Office of Energy Transition. It's called the Office of Energy Transition. It sounds big, it sounds like they're the ones working on building solar farms or whatever. They're not. This may be just a slightly inaccurate name. Their Office of Energy Transition really is specifically focused on local governments and workers that are impacted by the transition away from our legacy plants. So that's housed within DEED. They have an executive director named Carla Vita. Dean, I'm calling your name again because Carla said that she's been bugging you. So Dean has been telling me that I think that White Lakes could have a valuable perspective in some of this work as a community that has a gas plant currently, but has converted from coal to gas. But along with that office, and this is another leg of the stool, I mentioned economic development tools. That we were able to work with the legislature to create something called the Community Energy Transition Grant Program. So that has been a little bit of a winding road. It was actually created in 2020, but because there was no general fund money at the time, that was early in the COVID dates, the state said it had no general fund money. They put a small seed amount in there from an account that only XL Energy host communities could access. That wasn't my idea, trust me. That was just the bucket that the legislature had available to it that wasn't the general fund. But in 2023, we were able to put $10 million more into that program, which has gotten out and for power plant communities to do. It's meant to be kind of a flexible grant program. So if you're doing a long range planning because your plant may retire someday, it's there for that. If your plant's retiring tomorrow and you need to deliver an economic development project, it's also meant for that. I think it drives DEED a little crazy how flexible it is because they get cities throwing all kinds of ideas at them. But for us, that was intentional, and our role as the Coalition Utility Cities representing you is to argue that you're special. And one of the reasons, or one of the ways in which that program is special, is that it can do things similar to some of their DEED programs, but there's no local match required for those dollars. So again, I mentioned I was funded in 2023. We had a couple of different legislators throw in bills to put more money into it this legislative session. It was one of the many things that was funded in 23, but with the state facing a long-term deficit here in the not too distant future, didn't receive additional funding into it. So that would be unfinished business for us to put more money back into that next legislative session if we can. But there may still be, a small amount of dollars left in there. I say call DEED and see what they can do for you if you have a project that might fit. The final one is the Electric Generation Transition Aid. So that's a program that is really designed for the end of a plant's life. So a kind of feature of being state assessed means that power plants, when you turn them off, and when I say turn them off, I'm being very kind of flip about it, but when they're decommissioned, what it really means is that your plant retires in your community on December 31st of a year, that January 1st of next year, that tax capacity is gone. It goes back into an otherwise exempt category. So we don't want that to happen to anybody. So what we worked with the legislature on in 2023 Again, that was, Representative Wislegard from this area was co-author on that at the time. Was a transitioning grant program that, in the first year after a plant retires, the state with, basically paid out of the state's general fund, calculated aid program, basically fills in the gap from what you would have gotten, had you levied the same, with that plant still there, because it, is no longer in operation. The state fills in that gap and that aid declines over time, to about a maximum of 20 years. So that, program has now been in law for about 2 years. We've started to see it pay out, to, some of the communities that have had, plants retire in that time frame. It's not on the immediate, docket for the Alaskan plant. I don't mean to imply that, so I don't want to scare anyone. Minnesota Power has an active integrated resource plan right now. They haven't proposed closing Alaskan, so it's probably important that I say that. But you know, that program is sitting there, is already working, providing some aid to some of the coal communities. But would work and is kind of the backbone of kind of providing a parachute to communities that host power plants in the event that they retire. So again, I said I was gonna be quick through that, and then I talked too much again. I guess I'm keeping myself here later since I said I was gonna stay after the meeting, but I'll pause there for questions. My contact information is in the PowerPoint there, or you can get it from Dean. But happy to address anything that you'd like further clarification.
Do you happen to have any example of what, some of this energy transition grant monies were used for in any of the communities or?
Yeah, and I think, you know, I kind of alluded to this, for some of the communities have used it for more, long-range strategic planning. Some have used it for more, you know, project implementation, but it's been used for, things, including on the infrastructure side for the build out of industrial parks. I think one city relocated a water main to enable development to go into a certain lot. But some of the communities that are maybe have, closer to 8-10 years, or, you know, maybe aren't scheduled for their plant to retire just yet, have said, you know, we'll use this as an opportunity to, get some things on paper, maybe do, some of the, the types of studies of, our available land that site selectors or others like to see when they consider locating a new business. And have deed fund that 100%, so, but that's, I'll get you the list.
That's all right, I was just curious, because I was on the other call with their deeds last week or the week before, and, you know.
Yeah.
Talking through that process a little bit.
Yep. Yeah, did they give you a sense, sorry to throw a question back in,
No.
did they give you a sense if there's money still sitting there for you?
No, I didn't get that sense at all.
But yeah, that's a good question, we can get you that list too, or deed can, if you ask Carla.
Does anybody else have any questions for Shane? I don't have any off the top of my head. Yeah, we have your contact information, so.
Yeah.
Things come to mind, we're free to email you.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
Yeah, email or call, or, because I heard it mentioned, at least right now, it's on my calendar to be back up here for that state of the range event, so. If you do end up attending, we can connect there.
I might have one or two more questions if you don't mind.
No,
Okay, sure.
So when we talked earlier, you mentioned, because it's in the agenda tonight for to join our PR membership dues for this
Yes.
year, right?
Yep.
And you mentioned something about a reimbursement that becomes
Yes.
back to us if, so to kind of wash out the membership fees for this year. Can you speak to that a little bit?
I absolutely can, thanks for the reminder. And, one of the things that, I guess is, we'll say good news, too, especially during budget season, this year is, you know, this group, is membership driven, so sets its own budget, assesses itself dues. We went through that process, in, late June. But one of the things that, kind of confronted the group this year is we had some really active years, like I mentioned, from 2020 to 2023. Where the group had a lot of expenses, they had, you know, a little bit of a larger budget. They reached a point this June, where, because of all that activity then, and then we actually had more of a, we'll call it maybe a less active year or more defensive year where we, more in a defensive posture, expended less resources the last year and a half or so. So in the June meeting, the group made a decision, it has a dues rebate policy that basically says if we have a budget overage of X amount, we can consider rebating some of that back. As it worked out for most communities, including White Lakes, the amount available to rebate to the communities that the group approved almost equals your next year dues. So I guess one way of saying that, well, it's not totally accurate, is you almost get a year free for next year. So I'm reading it off my phone screen, so Dean, I'll make sure to confirm this. But I think the difference between what you'll be rebated back and what next year's dues will be from that'll be assessed or would be assessed for going forward in 2026 membership would be $282. So that means you know, the dues are you know, a few $1,000s typically, or closer to more in the range of $4,000. Again, reading my phone screen, but it basically washes out for the coming year with the rebates that the group did. So I think when Dean and I talked too, I think what it kind of said was, you know, that's good timing for that, not only because I know a lot of cities are facing budget pressures right now, but we've got a lot of new faces from staff and some elected that would love to get more involved in this work. And if that takes some of the budget pressure off of being able to do that, you know, that's fantastic. So yes, thanks for the reminder, Dean.
You said one or two, do you have a second one or just the one?
Yeah, you're right.
Okay. Go for
So
it.
being new, and some of the others are kind of, there's also the Coalition of Greater Minnesota Cities, which I know you're a part of as well. And what's the relationship there? What's the difference between, I know you guys are, this group is focused on utility cities, but what's the relationship between the Coalition of Greater Minnesota Cities and the Coalition of Utility Cities, if you don't know?
Sure, yeah, the short answer is that there really isn't one. The only tie is that I happen to have a role in working a little bit with both. So the two organizations aren't tied to each other. They both happen to be associations with local governments that lobby on certain issues at the Capitol. But our firm, you know, Clarity Hood, like I mentioned, just provides some lobbying services to both. So the only, to give you a more complete answer, I think the only time there's been a formal relationship is when the Coalition of Greater Minnesota Cities has some more complex property tax data models, and they've authorized the Coalition Utility Cities to use them from time to time. But that's about it. So other than my involvement as kind of staff or contracted staff, that's really the only tie between those. I would say, you know, this group is smaller, more focused on these particular issues that impact a smaller number of communities. Coalition of Greater Minnesota Cities is more of a kind of sister organization to the league, although not affiliated, but a kind of counterpart organization to the league that focuses exclusively or explicitly on rural issues or ones that impact cities in Greater Minnesota. So if that is more help.
All right, I didn't know if it was subsidiary or what, because you know, all of the same, it's all, they're similar, so.
Yeah, no, yeah, the Coalition of Greater Minnesota Cities works on some tax-based issues, certainly LGA, certainly some economic development issues, but doesn't do any of the work related to the utility cities or state assessed property or any of that.
So, it helps.
Anybody have any other questions for Shane? All right, hearing none, we'll move on. Thank you for taking the time to head up here and.
Thank you for letting me take up so much of your time.
Yeah, thank you. Moving on from the guest and citizens forum to reports from staff, City Administrator Wyberg.
I'll keep it short, but you'll see coming up further, I did meet with BC3, Corey from BC3 and recoded the computer systems. So, well, we'll get into it when we look at the code, but instead of going with 3 new towers, we're gonna go with the tower and laptop and just go with and get rid of one computer altogether that's not with upgrading. we're updating, so you'll see that in the quote, had a good meeting with him, that was great. We spent a couple hours here going through our systems and explaining what we have, what we need to do and what we should do, so, we did the process hazard awareness training for the ammonia plant at the arena last week. Everybody that needed to be there was there with Mel, and she was riveted by the presentation of documentation that go into process hazardous awareness training. I'm sure, which I've been through before. Mechanic interviews, last week, we'll look for recommendation from the council or hiring committee today on that, and that's about it, meeting with after meeting tomorrow in Aurora, I'm meeting with Jeff. We're gonna go through kind of the budget process and levy process with him, since he's got 19 years experience doing it. In Aurora, so that's it.
All right, thank you. All right, moving on to EMS Director Olmsted.
I don't have much on the ambulance. I did hear from, Queen, who is building their ambulance up in, Quebec in Canada. We're expecting it hopefully in September. There was some confusion. We have a new, rep for them, and there was confusion from the last one who said we'd receive the ambulance in June. So they're kind of feeling bad about it, so they've offered to fly me out to do the final walkthrough in person versus doing it via Zoom. So I quickly moved my passport and got that back already. So, that may be happening, I think it was like September 27th, something, they fly me out on Monday and come back Wednesday, all expenses paid for me and the guest. Take me first. Are you have passport?
Yes.
Okay.
27th is a Saturday.
Well, it's somewhere around there. He just emailed me actually after I left work, so I just put plans, but. End of September regardless.
Oh.
But Pedro goes off, they answer it. That's about it for the ambulance, and I'm just here to answer any questions for the. Fair pension for fire department for Tony. You couldn't make it. Didn't have any,
All right. Lucky you, 3 trips, okay.
right?
Moving on to City Attorney of the Wiki, anything from you?
No, nothing tonight.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to reports from elected officials, Counselor Grant.
Nothing tonight, no.
Counselor Jarla,
The only thing I've got is I missed the planning and zoning or planning commission meeting the other night. I was stuck working out at my property in Brimson, and we're at a point I couldn't leave, so apologize for missing that one.
no worries. Moving on to Counselor Ekman.
Nothing at this time.
Sounds good. Counselor Matheson,
Nothing tonight.
and I don't have anything. Whole lot of nothing going on. Nothing for old business, new business, 11.1, Coalition of Greater Minnesota Cities membership. So everyone has, you get this as an email or a letter or?
Yeah,
So yeah, email got us via mail or email.
yeah, this one I wanna talk about just as more of a reminder, cause it was here, but, maybe we could table this, cause it's not due until February, if you want, but. Though you find out more, we're gonna go over this. But we haven't been a member of this for a while, but since 2022 actually, so.
That's what I was gonna ask, how long have we been?
It's been a while, it's been a while since we've actually been, we still get the mailings and all the information of what they're doing, what they're
So
up
the
to.
last we were a part of it was 2022, so we're not. Okay.
We don't give you some stuff like that.
Yeah, so, fairly spendy, and we have different, lobbyists like through Rams, like reading through some of the things that they. Lobby for, advocate for, like the LGA stuff, the EMS stuff, that's things that Rams, sounds like that they, lobby for, so I think there's some overlap there. We can table it if folks want, if they wanna look into it a little bit more, or we can decide to join and pay the dues or not join and not pay the dues. Yeah, open to anything that folks want to do.
Make a motion to table it.
Yeah.
Later date.
So yeah, we can just table it, just give consider. Yeah, that we have a bit of time before we have to decide on pay those dues, so, yep, we can table that. Yes, it is. Moving on to 11.2. No, so we can just table it.
Yeah, like you wanna go more to, if you do something new.
Right. Sounds good. 11.2, Minnesota Small Cities Membership. Another,
This one I couldn't find any history of belonging to, so it's an invitation membership. This was small cities. I think we found one time back in the Birch Day 2019, I think you remember, but. We'll have these,
So we're not currently a member.
I know when we went to the League of Minnesota Cities Conference, they had representatives there,
I don't really know with it.
talking, and I know a lot of other small cities were members of it, so I'm not sure what the benefits are, but. Maybe we could see their list of membership and contact some other of the smaller cities and see if it benefits them or not. You don't wanna join every group, but I mean, some of this stuff is beneficial.
right. Agreed.
You say when those dues were due.
You're right. Other, there's me, no, it's an invitation and membership.
So that we don't pay till, we just make
Yeah,
a couple
right,
of
right.
months of the annual dues, yeah. But,
Yeah, I don't see any sort of hard deadline for. What information we got.
So you get some kind of the same way of maybe finding out what other cities are involved and chatting with them and seeing if there's any. What them doing.
benefits.
So table it and then maybe. Dean and your list of people, just shoot them, just not turn around.
Who's in it?
Right, yeah.
I did look into it a little bit, spelling out like it's the next one, you make a better, more fun decision.
Okay. Sounds good.
Maybe on their website, they have, the list of,
They do.
okay. Okay.
Yeah, we can table that one too until we get some more info on that. Moving on to 11.3, Coalition of Utility. Cities. From Minnesota, just got the presentation. So this is for membership, as Shane had explained, there's a rebate piece of it. So we'd be looking at, for dues, $282 with that rebate.
Do we join and then we get the rebate, right, or pay our dues, whichever that matters.
back.
No,
Yeah, you're fine.
The rebate will be issued one way or another, I guess however you guys wanna do it. Bookkeeping wise is just fine with me, but yeah, if you do choose to join, just know whether they're separate transactions or all one, that rebate check will be coming to. I can double check too with the group's treasurer, and see if I can get an update on timing for that, as well, so.
So the city would have to write the check for $5,200. To get the rebate and then have the total payment be $282.
Because it's coming, well, I should say, just to be extra clear, you don't have to write the next check in order to get the rebate. So the group, because you've been members, in the years that, leading up to the group, issuing those rebates, that rebate check has already been approved by the membership. So that's something that the membership at its meeting in June decided to do. I think that, Dean, we're really only linking the things, because, they roughly offset.
Yeah.
So it's kind of one way to think about it. So you don't have to do anything in order to receive the rebate check. And I was more saying, it's kind of up to you bookkeeping wise. If you wanna kind of write the check in full, and then wait for that rebate, or get the rebate in the door and then, write the check. Or I guess, I could talk to the group's treasurer, and as long as he's not already written the check, maybe we could offer the option of, he just, keeps that money in the group's coffers, and then you only make the payment for the smaller amount, if that's what you would prefer. I just don't know, timing wise where that's at, but
Is that a one-time shot? Next year it goes back up to $4,000 or $5,000 for the membership?
Unless the group decides to issue additional rebates, membership dues, yeah.
Do you have a preference either way for bookkeeping?
No, I don't really, I think it'll work either way, I mean, it's clean either way. Is it, if it's cleaner for you, or just re-invoice with the difference? That'd be nicer.
Yep, no, it's not, no preference at all, I think, on the group side, but, and I can double check, or I can put you in direct touch with, the group's treasurer too, if we wanna work it out that way.
I would make a motion to join the coalition of utility cities and leave it up to the two finance departments how the check gets. How the finances happen, but yeah, I would make a motion that we join.
Have we belonged before, Dean?
Yep,
Current, correct?
yep,
And currently?
yeah, this is the invoice you pulled.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, no, we had a few.
One I thought was on that.
Yep.
So you have a motion from Counselor Grams. Read it, which kind of on, but just to join and then Dean and their finance
Yeah.
will just agreeing to however they do it bookkeeping wise, so we have a motion from Counselor Grams, is there anybody that'd like to second
I'll
that?
second.
We have a second from Counselor Ekman, all those in favor? Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Moving on to 11.4, official complaint request for seasonal shower pass. Discussion. So I received a request form in the mail. So somebody living, outside of town a little bit, or within town.
No, he says he used to live here.
Oh, used to.
He's got some land in Riverwood Trent.
Oh, okay, so you must have a. It stays that. Says that him and some other people that live out there, had visited the point, and made note of signage saying that, people that are visiting that aren't campers, can't shower there. So he's requesting that, that the council just look at considering, having some sort of season pass for using the showers.
You know, I've been to other campgrounds when I've camped or attended festivals where you do pay to use their facilities. You just go there, check in at the office and pay however much, you know, it is to use the shower. I mean, as long as they're paying to use it, I don't know why. You couldn't, especially when they check in first, so the people who are running the campground know who's using it and has their name and.
Does one person come in and say, this is for my family, or does each individual have to pay a rate to use the shower stall?
I think that'd be a discussion we would have, I mean, I've been to one where it's individual, you say, here's my, I mean, it was years ago, but it was, here's my $2, I'm gonna go take a shower quick and.
I mean-
Shower and leave, but.
I appreciate the guy's honesty,
Mhm.
you know, confessing that he used to come here and use the showers for nothing. When they lived out there, and I don't know what we'd have to do to set a rate, and how would you do it? Would you give them a punch card, like a motel room key, pass key to get into a shower? I don't know what's up, I'm assuming the doors are just unlocked on these
They are.
shower
Yeah.
buildings, yeah. So anybody can come in and, you know, they'd have to stop in at the office and pay for their rate, or pay the rate for a site to cover 2 or 3 people at a time. You know, I don't know what utilities they've had or do have out there. I do know, with my years with the county, a lot of off-grid places had next to streams, even swamps, shallow wells with wooden frames and filters around them, where they collected their own water and had a sauna for bathing and heated the water, boiled it to disinfect it. I don't know what his access is out there, but how do we come up with a rate for what to charge for a shower out there for them to use?
I think that'd probably be a discussion involving the campground hosts and managers, see what they think, and. I know there has been a lot of use by local people who get their water turned off, they go out there and shower in the past, I don't think it's happened recently, but. I know a lot of people have gone out there and showered, I mean, at least they're proposing hey, let's, charge us and let us use it. Others campsites do, I'm not opposed to it, I just think it'd be a discussion to have with the managers and see what they think and what a fair rate might be. Maybe there's a local pass, like, if you're gonna be here all summer, here's X amount we pay for the month, or it's just an individual fee, there could be two rates.
This individual. He's on the Parch River and St. Louis come together right in that area. And he said that there's up there, I don't know, there's quite a number of cabins down in hunting sheds, but, his suggestion was a car, annual car, but, on the flip side, I don't think it's a bad idea personally, but. On the flip side, I think it also is an enforcement thing that if people are using the showers, if they're not camping out there, at least. Like, do you have a card or whatever, do you have a pass?
Yeah, who's going to follow up on it? How are they going to determine, does this vehicle belong to somebody that's
You have to have a
at
card.
the campground or?
It may help enforce the problem that they're having out there with people squatting in the showers. Well, no, a lot of people. There's been confrontations out there at least twice this year, of people in the showers using them and leaving a hellacious mess.
And they're not
They're not
camping.
caring. Nor are they paying for a shower.
So if they have to check in and sign their name and we'll use the shower, at least we have a record of who's there.
Huh.
And they are right by the office, not that they're in the office watching.
Yeah, but they've got the other one
every day.
farther down the road too, the new,
Oh, the new one, yeah.
yeah.
I mean, maybe you put a code on them, like our office door, and people who are living out, or camping out there for the season, they get the code and. Then that's how you get in to use them, you have to use a keypad. When people can't get in there unless they stop at the office and get the code, which it can be changed from, monthly or from time to time.
That won't be a bad idea.
Yeah.
I think it's people.
Yeah, I think it would be more of a, longer discussion than if we're doing it now, but.
Yeah,
I
It'd
think
be a good conversation with
Yeah.
that. The campground managers, like an after action, maybe like in a year here,
Right,
throw it out there.
how big of an issue is that?
I mean, they're the ones dealing with it.
Right.
Yeah, probably have a better idea of what ones get used behind their backs and which,
cause you gotta figure out, you got water, heat and water usage. Especially in cooler weather, buildings be heated, but water usage and then cleanup also. If they know that that individual left a mess, you can always rescind the permission and say, hey.
yeah, just like anything, if they abuse it, then they lose their privileges.
Well, then they have set hours that they can only use it. The office is open, I mean. Cause they're not open in the morning, that's when most people wanna hop in the shower.
My guess, if somebody stopped down there to use a shower and saw a sign that said for guests only and then came and did this, he's not leaving a mess.
Yeah,
No, right.
That's what I said, I appreciate,
Definitely,
I appreciate his honesty,
Just trying to look for a solution.
Right,
to go come after us and say, hey, what can we do here?
yeah,
But if they've already had people down there that are not, number one, not supposed to be there, number two, leaving a mess, what does that tell you about that individual?
I think maybe Dean, if you had a talk with the managers and asked them to come up with what they thought would be a fair, rate or a fair policy based on what they see, and then we could have something to review for the future meeting.
See if they'd wanna take on that job of. Checking people in or,
Well, currently, yeah, they do
but for two.
they have the role of enforcing what,
Yeah,
they've been kicking people out of there, they don't belong there. So.
yeah, they're probably spending more time kicking people out and cleaning up than they would by signing someone in, or if they had a keypad, or a. The cost, where you could get the swipe cards like we do at, fitness center, but that comes with the cost as well. Simple for now.
I mean, I guess even what if it started with this guy where, like you said, if we just gave him like a little pass card, that if someone down there's like. I mean, they'll obviously learn who he is relatively quick, but if they question him, he's like, no, I have the shower pass, I paid for the year of shower, and live up under the trail, and that's something we could do too.
Doesn't sound like he lives out there, it sounds like he's just.
Just on the weekends and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Recreation property.
Yeah, I don't feel like there's gonna be 50 people trying to come shower down there, I think it's a case by case basis, so. Maybe just come up with a plan and then as people request it, we'll have a plan to click through.
Yeah, I think overall it doesn't sound like anyone's super opposed to it, obviously the right way to do something. So yeah, this was just something more so discussed than anything else. Yeah, reaching out to Jen and Brian to figure out what their thoughts are on the cost and if it's something that. Could be managed.
They might have other ideas.
Right, so, yeah, we'll look at a future meeting to maybe look at formally, adopting some sort of policy or whatever for. People who show stuff, so. Moving on to 11.5 home occupation permit planning commission's recommendation for that. So we have that in our packet. Anything from you, Dean, for this?
I don't have anything else, not on the first bullet.
So yeah, with that first bullet, it explained that the planning commission unanimously supported the approval of this home occupation permit. From this business, so it's just something that we need to discuss and then vote on. Anybody have anything to discuss, for this? I didn't have any questions related to the fact that they provided, yeah, no questions, comments. So does anybody want to make a motion, to follow the planning commission's recommendation for the approval of the home occupation permit?
I'll make a
So-
motion.
One motion from Council Ekman, second from Councilor Jarvala, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Attached to that is 11.6. Resignation of Mark Hewitt from the planning commission. Do you have anything for this theme?
You need to make a motion to accept his resignation.
Yeah, nothing much to discuss for that. Does anybody want to make a motion to accept his resignation? Motion from Councilor Jarvala. Is there anybody that would like to second that?
I'll second.
Second from Councilor Ekman, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Moving on to 11.7. Anything from you for this?
No. Well, we need to post the position. I don't believe anything's changed, and just need a motion posted.
Fairly straightforward. Now we have a vacancy and we need to fill that vacancy. So is there anybody that would like to make a motion to declare a vacancy for the planning commission and then approval of posting for that position?
I'll make that motion.
Motion from Councilor Graham, second from Councilor Jarvala. All those in favor? Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Moving on to 11.8. Hiring committee's recommendation for mechanic, heavy equipment operator. So Dean, Shenny.
Yeah, I don't have that in front of me.
So yeah, I guess I can give a little overview for that. Last council meeting, we went over, like the written applications. Apparently Dave is a part of the hiring committee, but since you weren't here, we had nothing to jump on since we went over the applications after the council meeting, so Jill filled in for that. So Dean, Kenny, Jill and I, we interviewed 3 candidates. They're all really great candidates. Definitely knowledgeable and experienced in the mechanic side of things. But with all the interviews we did, we thought that Tristan Larson was the best applicant, that we had felt. He has a wide variety of experience working on various vehicles, in the military and then out at the mines. I guess personally, I was really impressed by his work experience on, vehicles that not many other mechanics have worked on that are important to cities, like squad cars and fire trucks. So he did a lot of work on the military. He also has public works experience, and has worked for the city before. So our recommendation was to hire Tristan Larson for the mechanic heavy equipment operator position. Anything to add on to that, Dean or Jill?
Support that.
Anybody have any questions or comments regarding that? All right, hearing none, I'll ask for a motion to accept the hiring committee's recommendation to hire Tristan Larson for the heavy equipment operator mechanic operator position. with Public Works, just pending that completion of, and passing of the background check and drug test.
I'll make that motion.
Motion from Counselor Matheson, is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a second from Counselor Grams, all those in favor?
I,
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Moving on to 11.9, resolution 2025-022. Acceptance of $600 for the garden club. So we received, a donation, for the garden club. So we just have to have a resolution to accept that and then to provide that to the garden club to use. So is there a motion to, accept that money? So moved. Motion from Counselor Charla. Is there anybody that'd like to second that?
I'll second.
We have a second from Counselor Matheson. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Moving on to 11.10. Resolution 2025-023, government lease purchase contract for the Caterpillar loader. Anything from you, Dean, on this?
Not necessarily, this is virtually the same thing we just signed about 2 weeks ago for the Toro lawnmower. We already took possession of the Caterpillar, so we're just waiting for, and we have to have a resolution to the financing company along with, the recommendation from council of the review of the lease, so that's last two pieces of paperwork, so we can get all the paperwork completed on the new cat loader that's currently here.
So, yeah, I don't know if it's years, but very
Oh.
year. This had been budgeted for and agreed to buy, and so this is just kind of the last formality of, paperwork wise to, officially, get that loader. Any other questions or comments regarding, this resolution? All right, hearing none, I'll ask for a motion to pass resolution 2025-023 to agree, or enter into lease purchase contract for the Caterpillar loader.
I'll make a motion.
Motion from Counselor Ekman, is there anybody that'd like to second that? I will give a second from Counselor Jarvala, all those in favor?
I,
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Moving on to 11.11, fire department retirement plan funding.
yeah, so we got our,
And, she got a time, this one. Sure.
PRS statements in the packet. So basically, they break it down, what we did last year, what our fund is worth. Right now, our benefit level is 2,100, so you can see on page 4, the city's contribution is $0. If you were to get a raise to 2,200, it'd be $0, $2,300, and then they ticked me off and skipped all the way to $3,100. So the city has, you guys have a rule that we have to be 110% funded, policy. So between 2,300, so then I had to pull out all the math out of everywhere in my life, it wasn't that bad. I was only off by my numbers with like $2, which I thought I did pretty well.
Not bad.
Yeah, I know, last time impressed myself, but so yeah, I figured out what 2,400 and this is my two concern, I couldn't take it, had I known it was gonna be made public, but whatever. Yeah, so I broke it down to what each one in between then was, so what. We as a department decided was it,
26.
did we ask for it?
20 said 20,
I thought it was 26.
Yeah, 2,600, that 2,600, you can see we're still 111% funded, 111.8% funded. So what we're asking for is raising our yearly pension from third. So I think we do the math. All work, like, yeah, way to go, guys.
No, it says like the city's contribution, like you said, up to 2,300 is 0, what is it at 2,600?
0.
It's still 0.
Yeah, so
So with
Just that
$500
$31.
increase, the city would still not be responsible.
it's still at over 110, so you're still, you meet that threshold.
Right. Yeah, right now at 2100, we're 128.4% funded.
Where does the 110 come from?
It's a policy city passed,
Not through the state or through.
no, it's city policy.
And this requires a motion and acceptance
Yep.
or a resolution.
It may be, no.
I forgot to ask him those weeks.
I don't know,
Is that a question for Joel?
that's, yeah.
This requires a motion or resolution?
I would do a resolution.
I feel like that's what happens. The last time we got one, which was been a while.
And we can approve a resolution here, even though we don't have it.
When was the last one?
I've been around 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, I feel like. Becky was here when we got it, she had just started, cause that was fun.
So these funds are managed by Paramount, right?
So it used to be Stifle Nicholas, we had ours through, and then we switched all our funds into Paramount manages it. So all the state firing that city gets, and that was broken down on here too. Was it like $15,000 last year? Yeah. Plus there was a supplement. So like 17 right there, $17,423, the city got from the state that goes in there. And then we make money on our interest earnings. That's 2025, last year was 15,000, the city got.
You said 5 years ago, what was it at before that, before it went up to
I
21?
would say it was 1800. If I remember correctly. Maybe we went 1,500, then 1,800, and then 21.
You know, what other departments are at?
I know because the town likes for that, Daniel, Aurora and town way up at that 2,100. If you go up to like Morris Ball Lake. I should move and go to the fire departments, because they're really good. There's some that are getting. Really good pensions. But for right in this area, we're all at 21. When I was at the last townwide board meeting, but it was on the agenda, it's not for the. Why the thing of care pensions that we never expected. I don't know how well they're done with you.
What is the resolution you say?
Do you recommend tabling it until we have a resolution on us or?
I would, yeah, if you, is there a time on this?
Yeah, we have to submit something back to Hera.
By when?
I don't know.
It says, the purpose evaluation funding progress. Will be determined by required contribution level. Year ending December 31st, 2026. Let's see.
Yeah, that's so they can figure out the year for the city's contribution, which the city hasn't paid for lots and lots of years. I think the last time the city paid was when we switched to Era. They had to put in a small portion, $2,000 or something like that. But since the city has not paid anything into our pension fund. That also is an option.
So Mayor, so two things, one, it does need to be by resolution, other than a statute, and it's gotta be done by January 1st. From what I see in the documentation, So I would recommend putting a resolution together that sets that level based on the recommendation of the. Keeps us funded at what, 111.8%, right? And that's at the 2,600 level. And so there's no additional cost in doing that. And I would recommend that we could probably go off with a resolution from 5 years ago, setting that current level and just update those amounts.
So, we'll find, I'll see, can't find it.
Yeah, maybe 2021, 22-ish.
So how many other departments in the area are at 2,600 or say 25 to 27?
All I know is Aurora, I feel we're at 2100.
You mentioned Morse Fall Lake, what are the,
No, it's just rumors. You know, like you said, talk in the garage.
oh yeah,
Yeah, that's. I don't wanna say, cause I don't know for sure. Yeah, it's just tough. There are many that make. Quite a bit. Kevin Ekman's brother down in Lakeville was, is huge. First problem, fire, so.
Lots more. But at
I'm
2,600,
stating,
still zero cost to the city, and we're maintaining that 110% threshold.
I'll get a resolution drafted.
Okay. Any other questions or anything for Mel? Anything else from you, Mel? So yeah, we'll work on getting a resolution and then we can put that, in the next, council agenda. And then if any questions or things come up in the meantime, Tony or you or whoever.
yeah, I know Tony won't be at the next council meeting either, but.
So, yeah, just shoot them an email or whatever, if you have questions, I'm sure you'd be happy to answer it. So, yeah, we'll table that and then we'll work on getting a resolution drafted up. Look at either approving it or, so. Right, thank you, Mel. Moving on.
We all math.
Yeah. You should have told me you didn't want to cover it. I would have summarized it.
Oh, no, I just. I do have a nice camera. Not that bad.
What we did show you work.
I did not. Oh, I did.
You can tell you definitely put some effort into it.
I did. Wasn't impressed by myself.
All right, moving on to 11.12, the computer upgrade revised quote. We touched on this a little bit at the beginning of the meeting. Anything else to add or?
No, this is based on our meeting with him on site and then actually what we have and what we need and what we would like to have, but you know. So. Like I said, the 3 boxes, 3 machines that, one cannot be upgraded to Windows 11 for sure. It's just one of the little cubes. Mine and Tammy's, the computers that we're using are 6 years old, and he said by the time you upgrade them, they're not worth upgrading anymore. Cause I'm having problems with mine actually as we speak. I have to reboot it every once in a while, so it's you see in the quote that the boxes are not very expensive, the laptop's $975. The Tammy's replacement's $975, and then. I would get a laptop and not a tower so I can take it on the road as well, and then, what is it, $1,200 for installation, so the quote went from. 100,
Yeah.
and we got it down to 37.73, so. It was just, all in all, a good meeting, a good conversation, got the price down, and I can talk you through it is in the budget, so.
Budget, you were able to get some updated quote for what we did need, and I was able to come down quite a bit, and it's definitely important that, you know. City Hall staff are working up to date on software and electronics. Anybody have any questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion to purchase the computer upgrades in the amount of $3,773.00.
I'll make a motion.
Motion from Counselor Ekman, is there anybody that'd like to second that?
I'll second that.
We have a second from Counselor Grams, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. And that's the last agenda item, so I will ask for a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Motion from Counselor Jarvis, is there anybody that'd like to second that?
I'll second.
Second from Counselor Grams, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carried.
Question.
Yeah.
You said,